UK.
Hi there. Thanks for coming along to our breakfast event to showcase some of our micro-learning speakers around project and program management. We're not quite ready yet. We're still sorting things out, getting the technology up and running so we can all be ready for you. So in the meantime, have a look at a few of these snippets and it'll give you a bit of a taster as to some of the other micro-learning modules that we've got, some of the speakers we've got coming up in store over the next 12 months. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Cheers.
Projects in the OGC world, in MSP and Prince world, exist to deliver outputs. And what do we mean by it? Oh, PMI calls them deliverables. It's a thing. Usually it means you can have your photograph taken next to it. You know, you can, if you can tap it, it's an output.
Risks and issues on programs.
So when you've got a whole load of things on your risk register, have a look through them and go, well, what are the causes that we have? What are the big answers to lots of these things? But it's useful to say, am I looking at an effect or a cause when you're looking at the risk register?
Oh, hi. Yeah, thanks for coming back. We're still getting the cameras ready. We're still getting everyone positioned so we can do the broadcast really well for you. So look, have a look at a few more of these micro-learning snippets. So you get a bit of a taster of what's in store. Again, talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging by. Cheers.
What are the benefits of vaccinating children against flu? Well, presumably it means the kids don't get flu. They can go to school, their exam scores improve, their education improves. They don't give flu to other kids at school. That's good. That's a benefit. It's a measurable improvement. We can measure the amount of days that kids have off school because they do measure it. We can do this stuff.
A team member may say something like, this new project is negatively affecting our team, and that's not being taken into consideration at all. So an active listener could respond by reflecting back. What I'm hearing you say is this new project will have negative consequences for your team. So I'm not parroting back, I'm reflecting back what I'm hearing in my own words.
Oh, hi. Thanks very much again for joining us. Now, we're just showing you a few of these snippets, so you've got a bit of a taster of what the micro-learning is all about. We've got a couple of presenters coming up shortly to be able to speak to you. It's all sort of around the micro-learning of the project and program managers. So we're still getting the lights all sorted and getting the microphones on and things like that. So just bear with us for a few more moments and you should be good to go, okay? So we'll definitely be seeing you soon. Cheers.
Project, Program and Portfolio Management Maturity Model, P3M3 Maturity Levels.
So at level 1 maturity, which we call awareness, so there's kind of a process awareness, they are kind of the fun places to work, right? Because every project's exciting for them because they've got no idea what's going to happen.
Establishing an enterprise project management office.
One of the key things is spending a lot of time on problem definition, understanding, and obviously the same for projects, right? What are we actually trying to resolve here? Are we all clear? Are we all agreed? It takes a lot of time to do that.
I don't know. Is this the right table? I can't work it out. Look, we're going to be just taking a little bit longer to get this ready. We've got a few cables here that we're not quite sure where they're meant to go. But once we've got those in, we'll be up and running. So look, keep enjoying yourself watching these micro learning snippets. They'll no doubt give you a bit of knowledge around project and program management. So yeah, talk to you soon. Cheers.
Ponder this. We typically divide projects into work packages. We divide programs into projects. There's inevitably an overlap. Should I run a big complicated project with big complicated work packages? Or should I run a simple program with specific projects in it? One person's big complicated work package is another person's simple project. And organizations will make different choices.
Multiple diverse infections.
When they scan your temperature, if it was above 37 or something, you were a potentially Ebola carrier. Now, the problem is in a country like Sierra Leone, your humidity is hot. We're right in the midst of malaria season. And then you've got huge HIV cases going on as well.
Noreen from Wellington, welcome to the CC Learning Breakfast Networking event. I'm broadcasting from Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington, Aotearoa, on a beautiful morning here at the Ministry of Food on the terrace. We have dozens of people from around the world online via YouTube and LinkedIn. We're joined by Rod Sowden in the UK, Hugh Van Wilk in Waka, and Andrew Symes here, along with myself in Wellington. Kia ora everyone, thanks for being up so early for this event. I'd like to do a call out to those joining us from New Zealand and beyond, including Joik from ACC, Franz from Auckland City Council, Megan from Aurora Energy, Rolf from CoLab, Christina from Datacom, Annalise, Lumida and Ross from Department of Conservation, good to see you guys here, Leela and Umar from Ekipanuku up in Auckland. From Hamilton City Council, we've got Anna Marie and Karen, and of course Mark joining us from Let's Get Wellington Moving. So good to see you here, Mark. We've got Louise from LIND, which is Land Information New Zealand, and Irene and Fatsa. Now Irene's here in person, is she? She was going to be, but maybe she hasn't made it yet. She's coming soon. And Fatsa from Ministry of Education. We have David from Ministry of Prime Industries, and Sarah was coming in person too, so she might be coming along shortly. Minister of Defence, Sophie, and of course we've got Felix, Kim, Pip, Richard, and Rose. Thanks guys for coming in. I think Rose didn't make it. Oh, you Rose is here. Good. Oh, excellent. Thank you. From New Zealand Police. Good to see you guys. And Catherine joining virtually. So good to see you, Catherine. Well, sort of see you not virtually. Lynn from Open Polytechnic. We've got Grant from Outcome Insights. So let me give you guys a bit of a show here. So this is the group we've got here in person. There we go. Oh, yeah, it's broadcasting. Just doesn't have any broadcasting. And we also have, let me just get everyone in there. So we've got Judith from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, Saeed from Ravensdown, and of course our big contingent from Te Arawa Lakes Trust, the iwi up by, I represent the iwi up by Rotorua, Alex, Amy, Corey, Halamona, Harata, Henny, Jake, Kurangi, Keely, Kim, Melissa, Mary, Rawinia, Sarah, Simone, Soweta, Storm, Tararoto, Tony, and William. And we have from Te Whatuora Counties Manukau Health, Cindy, and of course Bailey, Dylan, and Pippian from all the way down there in University of Otago. We've also got Marira and Neil and Tira and Tui from Whakarongao, Aotearoa, and Sian from WSP, and of course our other Grant here. So well done here. So a big hello to everybody. Yay! So good to have you all here. We've got some pretty cool speakers again. Please do ask questions via YouTube or the LinkedIn chat. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and LinkedIn channel to get future notifications. And to ask a question or post on YouTube, you need to have subscribed, okay? So don't get frustrated if you can't subscribe, and then you'll be able to post. Tristan, who many of you have spoken to, is managing the chat and available to give you guys a hand. So please remember to continue the conversation. So keep this conversation going about project management, in this case about blueprints, and post messages both online and at your workplace. So we've got Rod Sowden today. So Rod Sowden is the author of Managing Successful Programs and P3M3, the maturity model. Rod's a consultant based in the UK, providing advice to organisations running programs and wanting to improve their project and program delivery. He's currently working alongside Hugh Van Wilk, who's going to be joining us asking questions. He's been developing a blueprint for a client recently in the UK. Today, Rod is talking about blueprint, a definition of the future. And let me just get all the technology working here, and we will switch over to Rod. So let's see how we go there. You should be live in a few moments, Rod.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that intro, Scott. I was going to say blueprints. I'm going to talk to you about my favourite subject, but actually my favourite subject is actually soccer, not blueprints. But anyway, from a business perspective, I'm going to talk about these today. Just a little bit of backstory on this. I came across this concept when I was reading, and it will just tell you how old I am, but then you can see it anyway. Back in when MSP 1999 came out, the very first one. And at the time, I'd been given the job of restructuring the BBC's IT operations. I was already the head of IT, but we had to restructure, there's plenty of efficiencies to be done in it. And I remember flicking through this new book that had just come out, and the first thing I realised was, wow, I've got a change programme. We didn't know it was a change programme at the time, but I realised we actually had one. And then I came across in the planning bit 2 or 3 paragraphs about this thing called a blueprint. And what it was saying was what we had to plan was for whatever shape the organisation was going to be, and in terms of process, POTI was the acronym, process, organisations, its technology and the information we would need to run it. And I kind of didn't make a lot of sense, really. I've not come across this really. And I sat and pondered this for quite a long time, thinking, well, these wise burgers that have actually written this book, they must have meant something about this, and did some research. And so I kind of penciled in what I thought was supposed to happen, and I found it really hard trying to imagine what the organisation would be like after the programme was finished, which was kind of one of the reasons we were saying we should do it. And then with my doodling, I started to realise it's actually much easier to write down how it works now. And when you have 7 operations, even though in theory we were supposed to be the same, and I put together a kind of service level agreement that said we were the same, but they were all operating differently. So what I discovered from that was actually once I started writing this, go, well, what are they doing? And then we started to research it. What we found was the process of thinking through where do you want to be in the future and where are we now was hugely powerful in planning what the program was going to be, what was going to be about, because it kind of drove us to think holistically. When you're kicking off a program, it's very easy to charge off thinking I need to do this, that and the other. But this process of blueprinting is just invaluable, and it left a very profound effect on me. And certainly, but when I picked up when I got the job to write MSP in for the 07 version, or version 3, I think it's called now, we actually put a huge amount more into MSP about the need to think about business design, and we started to pull MSP away from it's about coordinating projects into it's about coordinating a changed organisation at the end. So what we saw then in the books that followed was the growth of this idea and the growth of the business change manager. Because actually what I realised when I look back on it is, as head of IT, I knew how these organisations were working and why it wasn't working. Normally you wouldn't get that knowledge from a program manager. It's where the BCM or the owner of the business change is kicking in. So it was profound for me, and I think it's for people who followed in the footsteps and people like Hugh, who the growth of things like business architecture since then, which I certainly hadn't come across. For organisations that do this properly, actually have much more success. So a little thing about what is the program, what is the blueprint? What I've already kind of set out is it's a description of the change model, and Hugh and I are working on one at the moment for an organisation that we'll just say the word it runs. It's a casework thing, and and we're using it to describe. Okay, this is where you are now, and this is how you do your business. But these aspirations that you've got for the end of this program about using AI means that you need to think about this in a different way, and you can't think about that way through projects. You have to think about them through a different tool set. So the key things for us when we're working with clients on programs is around outcome definition. Now, pretty much for those of you that are in program management, you'll all be pretty comfortable. You'll all have talked about outcomes this and outcomes that. What the blueprint forces you to do is think about, okay, if we want to be in that change state, what's the infrastructure and capabilities that we need behind that to enable us to work and do what we're setting out to do. Now, if you haven't got the blueprint, which is this is where we are today, what we call the as-is state, the to-be or future state, that actually gives you the data to do your benefits management, because the benefits are going to be the kind of positive things that come out from moving from where we are today to where you want to be at the end of this program. So programs without blueprints that are running they've got benefits, it's quite difficult to get them to explain where they're coming from if they haven't done the work in this area. Now, the other big things that it provides is it helps you scope the program, and possibly Hugh will drop into this at some later, because when we scoped up this particular program, their initial expectation was they'd look at the particular process and fine tune it. And what we brought out of this is actually it's not the process that they're using at the moment, it's the bits that are missing that are stopping them moving forward, which I'll come back to. So it provides you the real understanding of the scope of the program, and out the back of it also drops in the business requirements for your projects, because you've got this future state model when that's telling you what the projects need to create. So it brings it all together. I mean, it also provides you this really powerful base for decision making on the way through. So once you've got your architecture, just in case that we haven't joined that up, blueprinting is the program technique, but the underpinning that is business architecture at the end of the day. And so without one of these, or with one of these, if you have a change, I mean, the programs get buffeted and blown around all the time, don't they? Things go wrong in the projects. But once you've got your blueprint in place, you can really do an impact assessment and understand what's actually going on and what the implications are going to be. You know, if one of the projects can't deliver the capability that it needs in the time, then you can understand the dependencies between that and other parts of the program, and then you can maybe do some, resource flattening and all that stuff to make up for it and allow for this delay. Quite often we've had situations where it's kind of quite newbie organisations. We've explained this to them and they've gone, oh yes, we'll do that. But what you find is you can actually, with a program, you can run around and be very busy at the start and look like you're making progress. Once you're about 9 months to a year in, you realise that you really have no idea where you're going. So programs. One of the reasons, so why do programs struggle with this blueprint? If I was there and we were spending a couple of hours, that I'm sure would be one of the questions. And in fact, even after all this time with MSP, I'd still say good blueprints are rarer than rocking horse teeth, to be honest. And why is that? Well, firstly, there's a lack of understanding for the needs for this blueprint, and particularly for people who are inexperienced. It is much easier just to get on with stuff and start launching projects. It's quite hard to hold them back, and in some ways, programs need to learn the lessons before they take this seriously. There's very few skills to create these things. The business architecture profession has grown up over the last 25 years, but the people that need to, and the one that we're working on at the moment, the people that need to be involved in this and making the decisions are the really exec team members, and they need to engage with the process. Now, Hugh's been very good and we've actually got them on board, but I've also seen exec team type members go, this is too much detail, I can't cope, just get on and deliver something. And that does happen. That pressure to show progress in a program is there all the time, and to some extent doing the blueprinting is slows things down. But I have to say, the work that Hugh's done with this particular one, they've done great work. It's taken them 8 weeks to go from nothing to having a blueprint. They're very good at what they do, and so then this business now, or this organisation, can seriously think about the decisions it needs to make, because the program that they started off with has become much bigger and more complex, because the blueprints helped them to understand that the impact is not just on the process. It's questioned the quality of their technology, their almost naivety about what's needed. And we've seen this in a couple of other organisations. People launch into these digital programs, preaching about agile and all that sort of stuff, when actually fundamentally think they don't understand the end model that they're delivering, and so they end up flipping and flopping on the way through, and you end up not in a good place. I think I've already said I've already mentioned about having the skills, and it's the right people involved. I mean, the one we've been working on, there's been relentless involvement of all the subject matter experts in that organisation, whether it's finance, technology, data and information management. All of them have been involved at different places to help build this framework for them. Okay, so I'm just worried about how much time I've done, actually. I'll just check. I've only got 10 minutes, haven't I? Oh, that's me 10 minutes up. Okay, well, listen, I'll stop there. We can talk about the client story a little bit during the Q&A. All right?
Cool. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Rod. I was particularly interested to hear that it's not something that just the program managers and program management team do. You're actually involving everyone else. It's like it's a document or a product that comes from the organisation as well. That's correct, eh? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. The program management team rarely have the skills to design the future business organisation. Yeah, their job is to deliver it. A bit like if you take classical architecture, you have an architect design the building, and then you have builders who build the building. And to me, the program management team are the builders, and the architects are the architects.
Yeah, but we're talking about a business
Yeah.
architect rather than a, engineering type architect.
Yeah. Let me just go out to the team. Anyone got any questions at this point for these guys? No, they're all eating, so they can't talk. I got them
I can
just
only
as they were all
dream of
putting food in
eating.
their mouth. so, um, so I mean, what do you think, Hugh? Are you the expert blueprint writer, as Rod's been telling you? What's your secret sauce? Oh, we've got audio issues, Hugh. No, Hugh's gone quiet on us.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, I think we can hear you now. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Talk to us, Hugh.
Yeah, I've done a fair few of them in the past, and I suppose there are a few scratches on the back, Scott, from past experience. And yeah, I mean, blueprinting is the thing that I do. As Rod's pointed out, I think at the end of the day, what it does give you is it gives you the outline of the building or the home that you're going to be producing, and to get to that point, you've got to have a lot of input, both from from the users, the end users, and from the infrastructure element of it. And so you look at the organisation and build that out, and what it gives you is a future. And I know people talk about them in terms of target operating models as well. So blueprinting is a little bit synonymous with target operating models, and it is the future of the organisation where they want to be. But trying to articulate that and put it into a single picture for the organisation, and then at the end of the day to break it down and understand how that picture is built up and made up and how it gets supported and delivered is a key element of it. So it really is, and I've said this a few times, it really is where the rubber hits the road. You can have a vision, you can have a strategy, and then you need to pull those together and work out how you're going to implement that strategy. And the blueprint is also an artifact where the executive team can start to focus and come together on a common understanding of what that future looks like. So actually a key part of the blueprint is actually getting the executive team's agreement to that blueprint. And this particular artifact provides that focus really for the exec team. And then once you've done that, you've then got to go and articulate how you're going to realise that, and you break it down. But yes, I've done a lot of it in the past. I've got lots of scratches on the backs to show for it.
War wounds. Is that why you head down to Waka? You're trying to get away from those who want to otherwise cause you harm.
Absolutely, yeah. But no, it's a very good focus for the exec team, and they need to agree on it. But it needs to be brought in at the exec team level.
Is this something that's just good for big stuff though? Do small little projects really need these things? I mean, it sounds like 8 weeks of work, 8 weeks of a consultant. That's like a lot of money to be spending on someone to get something like this done for a program that's only going to last 3 or 4 years. And come on, tell us that. Give me the business case. What can happen if we don't do it?
Well, I suppose what we found, and Rod will probably back this up. What we find is we go into organisations and they've got a lot of disjointed projects with no common view of where they're going to end up. So the question is, why are you spending and wasting money on individual projects and you don't have a common view of what that what the end state looks like? And I think if you go down that route, if you say, well, you've got a little garage to build. Well, you probably don't need a blueprint to build a garage, do you? But if you've got a transformation or a change program, then a blueprint provides you with that focus. The other thing is if you've got a shed load, if you've got a significant number of projects going on, you've got to question whether that's a viable proposition. And should those all be proceeding? And if you don't have a common view of that, then I would argue that, you certainly should have. If you've got multiple projects going on and you're unsure about whether they all actually add value to the organisation. It depends on your organisation and where you want to go in terms of value. But this is something we don't do at a project level; we do at a program level, and I think that's where it sits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So so all those project managers out there who are going, great. Today I'm going to get back to work, and I'm going to start work, in about an hour's time, hour and a half's time, and I'm going to start writing a blueprint for my project. You can say, hey, well, hold back. Is that the deal?
Well, I think anybody that's delivering anything should be thinking about their outcomes, right? And if you're actually thinking about if you're going to be delivering any sort of benefits, you've got to be measuring where you are now and where you're going to be afterwards. I mean, that's actually the source of your benefits is your blueprint. And I certainly wouldn't think, Scott, from what you just said, that something that's lasting 3 or 4 years is a small program. I thought you were going to say 3 or 4 months at the time, but 3 or 4 years. If you don't do,
Yep.
if you don't do the work up front, you can almost guarantee disaster. And I'm quite sure Grant will throw a few in on this one as well. The amount of programs you look at and you think, well, what is it you're trying to achieve? And it gets lost in the mist of time since it started, and the programs start to drift as the scope changes and things get added to them. But I remember, I was up in Auckland with Scott and with Grant a few years ago. Up in Auckland, they've got that America's Cup yacht. I think it's the America's Cup yacht with a huge. And I remember looking at it thinking the blueprint is basically the keel of your yacht, right? So you're actually sailing along. You don't notice you haven't got a blueprint when things are going well. But actually, when things stop going well and you get blown off course, you really notice you ain't got a keel on a yacht, right? And so
Right.
that's the analogy I would draw. You don't notice that you haven't got one when things are fine. It's when when the weather picks up and the seas get heavy, right? Then you notice that you really don't have the steerage and the basis for controlling your program.
Yeah. Now, with regards to that analogy, you don't sail, do you?
I did. Right, I did.
Okay, this is good. Okay, look, let's move on then. Yeah, I wanted a football analogy. I was disappointed we didn't get that. Let's move on then. I've got Andrew Symes here, champing at the bit, wanting to get up and do a presentation. So let's get him soon. I'm going to call upon you, Andrew, in a few moments. In the meantime, here's a little advert. Okay, so these breakfast events, they're based around our micro-learning library. Okay, so we have a blueprint micro-learning module, care of Rod Sowden and his array of different t-shirts. We're going to do project and program experts and project managers to create this micro-learning. So we've got over 100 micro-learning modules. We're trying to capture all these lessons learned so you don't have to. So one of the things that projects just fail to do is fail to capture lessons learned. So we're capturing them for you. So if you have project managers who have great projects or great lessons to learn, let us know. We want to interview them and we want to capture that in time and then disseminate that as far as possible. We're working, currently working along Rod, developing the, I'm just reading the same introductions I read before. So if you're interested in the library, come back to me. Oral and visual storytelling is the best way to establish that common understanding. So let me introduce Andrew. So Andrew Symes, he's going to talk about leadership resilience. He's a senior project manager for Waka, Kotahi, which is NZTA. He's going to talk about resilience as a leader and how it's important to build a sustainable career in project management. Okay, you've got to be resilient because as a project manager, often in organizations, for good or for worse, you're the fall guy. You're the fall woman who's going to have to take the hit if something hasn't been done. You're the one running around making sure people are doing things. And that's tough. That's tough on you as an individual. You get a lot of blowback, a lot of stress, anxiety caused around that. So Andrew's going to address that. So let me just reassess, rejig up all the technology here, all the lights, so we can get Andrew to talk. I'm going to hand over to the speaker to him, to the microphone to him, and let's get a light on here. Well, let's just take you there.
Actually, I'm going to sit down. Is that all right?
Sit down, that's fine. I'm not sit down.
Very cool.
That's the important thing. Let's here. If you're sitting down, it's quite good because I can probably get quite a good shot of you.
absolutely. Can't hear anything from the.
No, you won't be able to come up.
Okay, I'll take this out then.
I do fix the microphone.
Ah, right, okay, got it. I guess one of the things to do will be a sound check.
You guys, give us a second.
I can see myself. Little latency there, but looking good. Would it be easy for me to tilt this that way so you can move in from the full screen? How's that?
Okay, we're looking pretty good now. Looking really good, actually. So, let us know if you can't hear Andrew, but we should all be fine to tune in and go. You can't see it, but I'll show you Andrew so you can see.
Very good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
really good.
Hopefully everybody, if maybe someone in the background put their thumbs up or comment to say that you can hear me, that would be good.
You can speak louder, that would be great.
Speak louder. So everybody at the back of the room, can you hear me nice and clearly? I'm getting loads of thumbs up, so that's awesome. Hey, good morning, and thank you for letting me have some of your time today to speak with you about a subject which is I associate with the soft underbelly of professional life. It's great to have learned colleagues who are interested in being successful in their careers, using great tools like the work that we've seen from Scott and Rod and the others who have participated in the conversation. But one of the really important things that I've discovered in my career is that there's a bunch of other things that are not really focused on a lot in the way with which we work delivering change within organisations. And to paint the picture, I came out of banking and finance IT and quickly realised that technology is a lot of fun to play with, but actually what I really enjoy doing is working with people. And in working with people, it's important to really have an ability to be authentic and at the same time to show some strength of character and an ability to connect with people. But in addition to that, one of the things that I've really found important, particularly from a professional career over a period of years, is that one particular initiative, a project, a program that I'm involved with can really take it out of you. and it's really important to understand some of the implications of what that can do and be upon your personal life, and what you can do in the way with which you manage the freshness and vitality that you bring, not just every day to the job that you're doing and the team that you're working with, but actually when you go through the storming, norming, forming, performing, and then mourning of a project delivery, how you actually bounce back and bring that freshness of enthusiasm to your next project, your next program, and the skill that I put down to that is leadership resilience. And that's that thing that I wanted to touch on today. So resilience to me is different to rigidity. I'm sure we've all experienced times in our life where things have been stuck, or we've worked with people who give the appearance that the way that they are working seems to be inflexible. To me, resilience is the ability to cope with moments like that, to work through them and come out the other side, and to have, at a personal level, shrugged off the consequences of it, and continue to be able to work in that sweet spot way of working that sees you being productive, and of course being professional and delivering the outcomes that we're all sort of so invested in delivering. So one of the things I just want to touch on is I'm not a mental health professional or anything like that, and there may be things that I touch on that maybe resonate for people, and if that's the case, a good thing to do would be to, if it's at a personal level, speak with some mental health professional, speak with your GP, and if it relates to your work environment, a lot of organisations have EAP services, and those EAP services can be a really good starting point for you to, away from the project or program environment, have a conversation about what you can do to sort of improve your personal resilience and your leadership resilience. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. And I'm mindful I've started talking, and this is really sort of a soft introduction that I've done, but I wanted to have something snappy and start off with a bit of good humour. So what I did was I asked ChatGPT, how do you know when a project manager is burnt out? And the response that I got was they start using project management terms to describe their personal life. I'm not sure that's particularly humorous, but I can certainly recognise that from some of the people that I've worked with, and I'm sure they would say exactly the same from me. So, leadership resilience. Why do we need it? Well, in my career, I've had a number of roles. Just to paint the picture there, I came, as I mentioned before, from a banking and finance IT background, and I moved into project management and effectively have become what you would call a career contractor. And as a career contractor, one of the things that I often encounter is that opportunities would be made available for me where I've come in to pick up a project that's already in flight or a program that's already in flight, and there's a need to get my feet under the desk, get the team back into the sweet spot of performing, start realigning the way with which we're working to what has actually been planned. And part of the challenge that I encounter is that there are situations that can relate to teams that are under stress. Often there can be reasons that my predecessor has left that may or may not have something to do with how they have been operating. And sometimes the environments within those projects themselves are, I think a term of the day is toxic. But in reality, it's often the case that there's a lack of resilience in the organisation, lack of resilience in the way with which things are working with people. So, why do I think I need to share about this today with you? Because I'm sure everyone here as project managers, through the early parts of their careers, through the experiences they're having now are coming across times where you've got challenges in the way with which you're working with some of your key stakeholders. You've got challenges in the way with which your sponsor or your executives are operating. At a fundamental level, one of the things that I see driving all this is anxiety. And in the same way that for me sitting here today in front of all of you, engaging with you, you may see behaviours that give a sense of cool and calm, measured delivery of my commentary and this patter that I've got. But the reality is I'm a duck on a pond. You know, the duck is smoothly gliding across the pond, delivering everything that you hear. But the reality is underneath there's a duck paddling furiously to work through this presentation. Little duck feet. And the same thing occurs for all the teams that we're working with at an individual basis, with the executives we're working with our project sponsors. And some of the challenges that we'll come across is how do we work with people that are experiencing the same sense of anxiety. Remember, anxiety, a sense of dread or fear within ourselves about something that's about to happen. Maybe we've all had a sense of that. Maybe we all carry a sense of that within ourselves. You know, one of the challenges that we face as when project manager is having a sense of self-awareness around the way with which anxiety, the way with which our focus on uncertainty around what we're working with can result in things happening through what we're doing, things that are happening through the way with which we're working with others, influencing what is going to happen in a project. So for me, how I have dealt with improving my leadership resilience is through a number of personally focused activities. There's simple things like meditation and mindfulness, which have been really helpful for me with getting back in contact with my physical body. Looking after my physical body is something that occurs through exercise. Something that's really important for me within the teams that I work within is building deep and meaningful relationships with the people that I work with and treating them as the adults that they are. Giving people the latitude to be themselves and the ability to support them operating on their front foot from a delivery perspective. Being mindful that some people are doing their best and maybe the skills that they are utilising are not necessarily skills that they're entirely comfortable with. Recognising that, you know, the anxiety that I spoke to before is something that they may be experiencing themselves. One of the key things for me over the last few years is actually practicing journaling, writing down how I can record the sensations, the situations that are occurring through how I am working. I've found that to be a particularly effective approach of reconciling some of the messages that I'm hearing directly from the project team, from the project environment, from myself, and using that to then reflect upon how I want to maybe adjust my delivery approach or the areas that I want to focus upon. So I'm really keen to have some questions from the audience, from those online, if there's anything there. It's a really roundabout sort of talk that I've given to you today, and it's a very personal journey that we all have in this sort of space. So if there's anything there for you, I'm really keen to hear.
Is that an invitation? So I can
sit next to you?
Yeah,
So
by all means.
I think I'll be in shot here.
Very good.
I'll just turn this away actually, because we don't need that projector there shining in our eyes. I think what I've noticed and what you're saying is that coming into an environment which is quite potentially caustic. So if you come in, I guess in a way you've got to evaluate that as a project manager doing a contract role, right?
Yes.
When you're going into an organisation and a project manager's left, there's likely not only are you going to have maybe big or small boots to fill, but you're also going to be in this environment where there's an existing set of relationships that you're going to have to try and fit into, which can be challenging. And I mean, I've got sort of personal experiences recently of having to do that and the challenges faced with slowly people dropping off in the project. You know, it's like it's almost like your lemmings, you're all lined up next to a cliff, and slowly some people have already left and you come in to replace them just behind them, and then all the others start to drop off as well. And that's like a bit of promoting, right? The idea of people being dropped off or removed from a project is pretty scary, almost like a threat that's just lingering there. It's the experiences that I've recently had to deal with are things like having to deal with trying to explain what's going on and no one wanting to listen. It's like HR don't want to know about the difficulties you're having. Just move. Their job is just to get a new person in. I want to find a new lemming to replace the one that's dropped off. There's nothing about trying to save the other lemmings that are just about to fall off the cliff. I hope you don't mind calling everybody lemmings. I hope that's all right. So I think that sort of experience is the sort of spirit that generates that sort of dread, right?
It certainly can do, and there are other situations. I've been fortunate enough to work with some teams over some quite extended periods, and one of the unfortunate things that often happens is that the cycle of life results in some. I've had situations where some project team members have unfortunately been caught up in motor vehicle accidents and fatal motor vehicle accidents, and the consequence of that is that you're seeing team members who are crucial to the performance of the project suddenly no longer available, and while that's a terrible circumstance to have to deal with, we're also talking about the consequence of that on a performing team and how you work through that. And
you keep talking. Let me just get Rod involved too. So
and that particular circumstance, one of the real challenges is around acknowledging the contributions of those team members that you've lost, while at the same time attending to what's occurring with the team. So there's elements of self-awareness that you want to be aware of in yourself and how you are supporting others that are dealing through both the team grieving and also through the situation of what may be personal relationships that are grieving there. So
I just want to apologise to everyone because it says Scott Spence there, but of course this is Andrew Stein, not Scott Spence. I just happen to be using my account, so sorry about you seeing the wrong title there. But we've got Rod and Hugh on board now, and I've got a question. Can you guys hear me, Rod and Hugh? No, you can't hear me. You can hear me?
Just about.
You can hear me. Okay. So I can't hear you guys, so I don't know if you guys have muted yourselves. No?
I'm on.
Oh, I haven't got the speaker on. Okay, I think that's being broadcast. It's just not being displayed. Let me just see if I can.
Get you.
It's all right. We can't hear what he's saying. That's okay. This is one of those technical glitches that tends to occur. So the deal is, I guess, that I can imagine there are situations where when you're creating a blueprint, you are learning about things about the organisation. And I think this is basically about communication, right? Being able to communicate with people. So as you're the consultant, and I've had this happen before too, you go around the organisation and you learn things about the organisation that even senior management don't know. And you start to get a more holistic view of the organisation. And how do you convey that to management when they don't want to hear that?
And this is the same thing. When you talk to HR, they don't want to hear about what's going on. All the other lemmings are about to jump off the cliff. But this is also where you're going, no, the organisation has this happening to it. And they go, no, that's not the way it's meant to work. And so they've got a view of what they think is going to happen and what the organisation should be doing. But the reality is it's not going to happen. What's your view, Hugh and Rod, for the audience out there in YouTube land? Talk, we can't hear you, or I can actually just...
Yeah, I mean, it's Hugh speaking. I mean, at the end of the day, and Andrew, you'll have experience. Can you hear me?
Is it just us, Hugh?
It looks like it's just us.
Oh well. Well, you're going to be able to talk about this tomorrow, then, Hugh, aren't you? Really, when you tell them what they don't want to know.
in the studio with Andrew. But I don't know, what's your view, Andrew? Or anything else here? What's your views? What's your experience? Any experiences like that where communication is sort of shut down?
Certainly, yes. In organisations where, like you say, the execs or the leaders of the organisation have their mindset, their view, and they aren't open to hearing anything that conflicts with that view.
Right.
And unfortunately, it basically became that the organisation was a revolving door. People would come in, go out, and there was eventually a turnover of, I think, 25–50% at one point per year, and nobody was normal. People would come in and leave within a year.
Right.
I ended up being one of those that left as well.
Right.
So it's just the leadership has more of an impact on the tone and the mindset of the organisation and impact the people under them. And also the leaders that are excellent in those roles that make such a great place to be, but I've never seen it done where, for lack of a better word, a bad leader becomes a good leader.
Right.
You are or you aren't, and you just find an organisation where you can fit and you're happy there.
Right, yeah, because effectively you can't manage up so much that you enable the leaders to actually do a better job.
Unless they're open to it.
Yeah.
Very few are.
Yeah. So that's quite challenging, isn't it? It really is a case of whack-a-mole. You basically keep walking around until you can find someone who's able to stick their head up and be worthwhile with sticking their head up. You know, to hit it down again. Yeah, that's a bit of a I guess maybe that's a lesson that needs to be passed on to those early contractors, is that if things aren't working for you, move on. You can't fix those leaders above you. And often the organisation is actively seeking improvement, that you can't fix them and you're best to move on. And cutting your losses quickly, rather than stretching it out for another 12 months, I'm sure this will get better. Actually, you're better off going, no, it won't get better, and moving on. And it's hard to do in a place like Wellington and Auckland, which is relatively small. Those people you're going to come across again. So every time you move, there's a potential of burning bridges. Every time you move, there's a potential of not getting that future role because someone high up who you couldn't stand before decides to squash you.
It's a really good point you made there, Scott. And thank you for sharing that. You know, often dealing with these situations from a career, you wonder, is this going to have a significant impact on my future prospects and my suitability for taking on the next role? And is that something that is going to work against me? I've had experiences like that. I was in a short-term role in a large organisation, and in fact I've had a couple of them on reflection. And what I came across was that the leadership did appear to have the resilience that I spoke to earlier. There was a lot of rigidity in the way with which they were working through things. I wondered whether some of the organisation was dealing with stress from a number of areas above them, from the executive leadership. And certainly some of the behaviours that I saw from working with some of the senior leaders led me to believe there was an element of imposter syndrome. So that I don't know if everyone who's on the call is familiar with the concept or theory behind imposter syndrome, but it often has people who are highly capable acting in ways with which leads to lack of resilience and lack of authenticity in what they're doing, and often a case of a forced style of leadership, which can have detrimental effects for working relationships and the style of communication that comes from it.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up there. I've actually got I'm actually going to do some little technical troubleshooting right here by just changing this and then going to this, and then asking Rod.
Just you and me again, Hugh, I think.
It is.
No, I still can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
Obviously, you're not saying things that are worthy of listening to.
We can hear you, but I don't think you can hear us.
There must be obviously some sort of the technical gods don't like you today. What have you done, guys? What have you done? Is what I would ask. It's fine. No worries. Look, let's wrap it up then for everyone out there in YouTube land and LinkedIn land. So just to let you know, look, our next event is, I don't even know if you're seeing me now, but anyway, we're going to be making a live stream or a recording of this live stream. It's going to be made available along with a request for you to provide us with feedback. Please do share the recording. Our next event in Wellington is fully virtual. I'm going to be travelling to the UK to present on the 3rd and 4th of May when Andy Murray, Executive Director of the Major Projects Association UK, is going to be joining us. He's going to be talking about major projects, not surprisingly, and the use of data within major projects. Probably some other topics too. He's a pretty talkative guy and has some pretty cool ideas. You might track him on LinkedIn, find him there and connect with him. Very great guy. He's been down to Wellington on some of our conferences. Really involved with P3M3 for assessments. And he is going to be talking in May, so be sure to join us then. Same time, not quite the same place, but online. And visit CC Learning to book on future breakfast sessions. If you're interested in our micro-learning library, reach out to me. Thanks for coming. Look forward to seeing you at future events. Ka ti te wha.
Thanks very much.